Good morning, traders, and welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Wednesday, December 17th. Okay, let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps. This morning we're seeing some positive action, which is, quite refreshing. I'm looking at the S&Ps this morning, and, we're trading higher by 0.37%, almost 0.4%. So, that's a nice turnaround. And I'm seeing a slight rebound in tech stocks. I got to like that. But, it's really the energy sector. The energy sector is really in focus today because last night, President Trump ordered a blockade of Venezuela. Now, this is renewing geopolitical issues specifically around oil, where you got to consider the supply considerations. Remember, Venezuela, while they're sitting on the biggest oil deposit in the world, they're not a major producer. They're only producing like 1 million barrels a day, and that's nothing. I mean, the U.S., we produce about 13. Saudi Arabia produces 12 million barrels a day, and they're only producing 1. So while they have the deposits, they're not really producing a whole lot of oil, so it's not going to be moving the market as much as you might think. But President Trump is scheduled to address the nation tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm sure he's going to be talking about, Venezuela and other topics. On the other issues on the political front, Senator John Thune, he stated that Congress is not going to pass legislation this week to extend the federal health insurance subsidies. This is removing any potential short-term catalysts for those healthcare stocks that we were looking for. What else we have in corporate news? OpenAI is said to be in talks to raise about $10 billion from Amazon, and they want to use their in-house AI chips. That's the way they say they're going to use the chips. That way they get the investment. It makes sense. It makes sense for OpenAI to do. California regulators, they've given Tesla 90 days to amend their advertising practices or face a potential 30-day suspension in vehicle sales. Yeah, it's not going to do anything. It's tough talk, but, you can change those ad sales overnight. So I don't foresee any issues with Tesla sales in California being affected by, the California regulators. On the earnings front, Linear, ticker LEN, it's moving lower after a disappointing earnings report. And after the bell today, you got Micron, Miller Knoll, and ticker WS. They're all expected to report. Okay, let's take a look overseas and take a look at the overseas action. We're starting off with the DAX. DAX started off higher, pulled lower, and now is edging, and now is flat to higher. It's up, 0.02%. Defense stocks are in focus in Germany. There are reports that the German government is about to pass a $50 billion military procurement bill. That's positive for those defense stocks. London, the FTSE, it's up by 1.53% this morning. Listen, after that softer than expected inflation data, the market's really counting on a rate cut from the Bank of England, and the Bank of England is going to be having that meeting tomorrow. So we got to keep an eye out. That's if they lower the rates, those equities will continue to run. In France, you're seeing a little weakness, down 0.16%. It was higher. Financial stocks, defense stocks, that's on watch in France. Turn our attention over to Asia last night, and Asia was green. We looked at the Nikkei, which finished higher by 128 points, or 0.26%. You know what the big thing was in Tokyo was the stronger than expected trade data. Exports rose 6.1% year over year in November. That's well above the forecast, and it's like the fastest growth in 9 months. Then you look at the Hong Kong exchange, the Hang Seng, which rose 0.92%. Gains were across the board, which kind of signals a broad-based, rebound in China. China rallied as well. They were up 1.19%, and what was leading the rebound? Tech stocks. There was a blockbuster IPO that really helped lifted the sentiment, specifically in tech. So Chinese stocks had a good day this morning. Now we're turning our attention over to oil. Now there's multiple factors going on here in oil right now, but we got oil trading higher by 1.7%. You get WTI at $56.24 a barrel. You get Brent at $59.92 a barrel. Now remember, yesterday oil dropped more than 2%. That's a big downturn. But late yesterday after the bell, President Trump came out and took those actions about a total and complete blockade of sanctioned oil tankers linked to Venezuela. That's causing the risk premium to go up. But then there was also the American Petroleum Institute. They released their estimates last night, and according to their estimates, inventories fell by 9.3 That's a huge number, 9.3 million barrels last week. So, that's helps point oil higher. And then there's word that Russia's not going to accept any type of compromise for this Ukraine peace deal. So, again, you got three factors here that are just helping to, push oil prices up from those, lows that we saw yesterday. So oil is moving higher, up about 1.7% this morning. Okay, now we're turning our attention over to earnings, and we got to talk about Linear, LEN, Larry Edward Nancy. Stocks down 5.25%. They missed by 15 cents, although they did do it on higher revenue. I mean, wasn't a good report. It was a disappointing report. Then you got the GIS, General Mills, Grace India, SAM. That stock's trading higher by 1% this morning. They beat by 7 cents, and they did it on higher revenue after the bell. Today you got Micron, MU, Michael Uncle. They're set to release their EPS is $3.84. And their expected move is 9.48%. Wow, that's a big move. Okay, let's move on to economic reports real quick. The big one today is going to be at 10:30 a.m. where we get the EIA oil inventory report. But you get a lot of Fed speak going on today. Yeah, 8:15 a.m. we're going to hear from Fed Governor Christopher Waller. At 9:05 a.m. we're going to hear from New York Fed Bank President John Williams. And at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to hear from Atlanta Fed Bank President Raphael Bostic. Now, Waller, he's in the running for Fed chair. He's scheduled. There's supposedly an interview scheduled, but the question is, is he going to be, more like Powell, or is he going to be, more of a Fed chairman that Trump wants? This is why Waller's probably not going to be in there. He's voted hand in hand with Powell one too many times. Although he was the first one out there to say that, hey, I see an issue with the Labor Department. Although the data didn't support him. Was that for political purposes? Yeah, you never really know. The non-farm payrolls report yesterday kind of was underwhelming. I mean, we saw a big drop in November, but a big drop in October, but an uptick in November. The key takeaway was the unemployment rate edged higher to 4.6%, which is the highest in like 4 years. But that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update. Okay, let's move on and take a look at the markets this morning. I'm looking at my stocks this morning. Ooh, it's pretty green today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 7 lower. I got 2 unchanged, which means I got 19 higher. So yeah, looks like we're going to have a good opening. And then you look at the FANG stocks. Tesla's a little weak. Everything else is trading higher, though. I mean, so that's positive. You look at some of the news behind the tape. Like Apple is said to be in early discussions with Indian chip makers to assemble and package components for the iPhone. Interesting. That could be something there. We're talking Google, their driverless automation software, Waymo. They're in talks to raise $15 billion in a funding round. That's positive for Google. Google's up 0.44% this morning. Meta Platforms, listen, stocks trading higher this morning. Instagram's going to be launching Fire TV app to bring Reels to the big screen. That's kind of positive. Tesla did come out and say that their sales in California continue to be uninterrupted. Well, that's to be expected. I mean, no decisions have been made. They said they're giving them 90 days to make the change. So, yeah, they should be uninterrupted. But it's more about getting that statement out there. But you'll get Tesla shares this morning. They're down 0.12% this morning. Nothing significant. Okay, we're moving over to the Dow Jones 30 stocks, and we got to talk about Amazon, because OpenAI is in talks to raise $10 billion from Amazon. And as a result, what are they going to do? They're going to buy chips from Amazon, So Amazon lends them money and they get sales. So it kind of works out well for Amazon, I guess. Chevron, despite the blockade, the oil company says its operations remain undisrupted. That's kind of positive. You look at Chevron this morning, it's trading up 0.78%, which is nice to see. Okay, merger news, Sinclair, that's SBGI, Sam Boyd, Grace India. They're calling on Scripps, SSP, Sam Paul to engage about a potential sale. SBGI's got to do it now because, this is when they're at their strongest. Scripps is looking for a partner, but I don't know if Sinclair's the right one for him, but we'll have to wait and see how that pulls out. Okay, we're going to talk about buybacks for a second. We're talking NDRS, NerdWallet, Nancy, Richard, David, Sam. They announced a $50 million increase to its share repurchasing program. That's all I see for news hitting the tape this morning. Now let's talk about our stock of the day. And you got to go back and forth. I don't like a lot of the earnings that are coming out, but I do think we're going to see some nice volatility in Micron today, ticker MU, and earnings are out after the bell. EPS is $3.84. Expected move is 9.48%. But I don't love the option volume. You look at yesterday's option volume, 83,000 call contracts versus 110,000 put contracts. That's negative. That's typically not a good sign going into earnings. And open interest is also negative, 794K versus 981K. Again, negative. But the major brokers do like it. They continue to give the stock, strong ratings. They are raising price targets. So I'm due to a lack of the other quality earnings coming out. I'm going to go with Micron. But I got to pull back, and I got to say my entry price has got to be 233, 233.50, somewhere around there. If it hits that, I'll consider taking a position because I don't like the option flow from yesterday, and it's not hitting all my data points. But at 233.50, 233, I mean, it's worth taking a shot that you're going to see some volatility in the stock as you get closer to the earnings release. So I'm hoping to make it during the day and walk away without any issues. But that's my pick of the day. Micron, ticker MU, Michael Uncle. Okay, let's move on and let's see what's we'll see what stocks are moving the market this morning. Corebridge, CRBG, they're going to join the S&P Midcap 400 Index. Time is running out for the December rally to materialize. Well, if the December rally doesn't happen, then they start moving, say, a January rally. Warner Brothers is really sitting pretty. They're in love with this deal that Netflix offer them. Saying that the Netflix merger deal was superior because, hey, face the facts, Netflix has more the ability to increase its share price than Paramount's Peace guy. Amazon partners with JP Morgan-backed startup Slope. Honda's recalling 70,000 vehicles in the U.S. over reduced brake function. DBVT, David Boy Victor Tom, DBV Technologies. Their peanut allergy patch met its primary endpoints in the trial. Stocks trading higher. Warner Brothers likely to reject the $108.4 billion Paramount bid. Freshworks, software companies exploring acquisitions, including AI firms. Robinhood Markets company will allow customers to wager on individual performances of professional football players as part of the new patch of sports-focused event contracts. They rolled those in yesterday. That's all I'm seeing this morning. Okay, let's take a look at our stock of the day from yesterday, which was PayPal, ticker PYPL. Listen, the trade worked out. I mean, it was really about the entry price that I gave. I mean, the stock opened up at 61.69, and then it fell down to $60.95, and then it rallied back up to 62.03. Now remember, my entry point yesterday was $60.70 to 61, and it did fall beneath the $61 range, because it hit a low of $60.95. So, from there, running up to 62, that's more than the 1%, so you got to call it a win. So, yeah, PayPal worked out yesterday. PYPL was a winner. Happy. Okay, traders, that concludes NewsWare's Trade Talk for today. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and let's make some green.